Imagine a voice so powerful that it doesn't just echo through the streets of Burkina Faso or the halls of African governments, but crosses oceans, shaking the very foundations of America's streets and neighborhoods. That voice belongs to Ibrahim Traoré, the young president of Burkina Faso and a military officer who has become more than a national leader. He has become a symbol, not just for Africans, but for every black person around the world. When he speaks, his words are not just speeches. They are thunder. Every sentence he delivers feels like a strike against the walls of racism that have stood for centuries. And what terrifies racists in America the most is not just his courage. It's the fact that he teaches every black man and woman, no matter where they live, to stand tall, to be proud of their identity, and to never bow down to discrimination. But this story is not only about fear, it is about pride. Traore's message is one that empowers black communities everywhere with a reminder: you are not weak. You are not defined by color. You are equal. You are worthy. You are essential to humanity. For decades, the picture painted of black communities was one of struggle, suppression, or silence. But Traore is flipping the script. His words reach beyond Africa. They resonate in Harlem, in Chicago, in Atlanta, in Los Angeles. He is reminding every young black man and woman that their story is not one of survival, but of power, dignity, and resilience. And here's the twist that terrifies racists the most. Traore doesn't only speak of resistance. His message is bigger, broader, and far more dangerous to the old system. He calls for love. He calls for unity. He challenges white communities, especially those who already reject racism, to walk side by side with their black brothers and sisters. He declares, equality is not a slogan. It is the true spirit of humanity. In a world of love and respect, no one is superior. No one is inferior. That is the real threat. Because when black pride is combined with love and leadership, it is unstoppable. It doesn't just break chains, it builds bridges. It inspires a new generation to believe that peace and equality aren't dreams, they are choices. So the question is this: is America ready for a voice powerful enough to tear down the old walls of racism and write a new chapter for everyone black, white, and beyond? When Ibrahim Traoré stands before a crowd, there's no teleprompter, no polished rehearsed lines. His words come raw, fiery, straight from conviction, and that's why they cut so deep. In Africa, his message feels like liberation, a rising tide against centuries of exploitation. But in America, his voice shakes the very foundation of racism, because it challenges both sides of the racial divide. To black Americans, Traore's message is a call to rise. He reminds them that being black is not a burden. It is a legacy of strength, of survival, of creation. From jazz to hip-hop, from civil rights movements to cultural revolutions, the black community has shaped America in ways too powerful to be erased. Yet, racism has long tried to bury that pride beneath stereotypes and systemic oppression. Traore refuses to let that continue. His words thunder. Stand proud. You are not victims of history. You are makers of history. And this is where the fear sets in for racists. Because his words don't just empower, they unify. He is not telling black communities to live in anger or division. Instead, he speaks of love, of dignity, of lifting oneself so high that no insult, no discrimination, no barrier can pull you down again. This kind of pride isn't just resistance, it's transformation. To white racists, his message is even more unsettling. Traore does not spit hatred. He doesn't call for revenge. Instead, he offers something much more powerful: equality wrapped in love. He declares that whites and blacks are not enemies but equals, capable of building a society together where no one dominates the other. That message terrifies racists more than any protest or uprising, because it threatens to dismantle the very ideology of superiority they cling to. But here's the twist: Traore's words don't just resonate with black audiences. They also reach white allies, ordinary men and women who reject racism and believe in justice. His voice gives them courage too, showing that siding with equality isn't weakness, it's strength. Slowly, the lines of division begin to blur, and what's left is a vision of a society where respect is universal and love is louder than hate. For America, this is not just another speech. It's a warning. The old order of racism, division, and silence is being shaken. And if Traore's message continues to spread, then the days of ignoring black dignity in Africa, in America, anywhere, are numbered. Because when pride meets unity, and when equality is carried not as a demand but as a truth, no wall of hate can survive. When we look at the story of black people in Africa, in America, across the world, one theme always shines through: resilience. Every attempt to suppress, enslave, or silence has failed because the spirit of dignity cannot be destroyed. This is the fire Ibrahim Traoré speaks into, and it's why his message echoes so strongly in the hearts of millions. He reminds black communities in America that their history didn't start with chains. It began with kingdoms, with knowledge, with warriors and builders who gave the world mathematics, medicine, music, and more. To know this is to know that being black is not just about survival, it's about greatness. And when that pride awakens, it terrifies racists because suddenly the narrative of inferiority collapses. But Traore doesn't stop there. He points to the present. Black excellence is everywhere: in art, in science, in politics, in business. The issue is not whether black people are capable. The issue is whether the world, especially a racist America, is willing to acknowledge it. That's where his words sting. He doesn't ask for validation from the West. He demands that black people validate themselves first. Because when you stand tall in your identity, no one can shrink you again. This is where his message becomes revolutionary. He doesn't just talk about pride for the black community alone. He talks about love across races, not the false kind that ignores injustice, but the powerful kind that insists on equality. He says, true love means no superiority. True love means no racism. True love means we rise together, or we fall divided. Imagine the impact of these words in America today. For racists, they destroy the foundation of hate. For black Americans, they provide a shield against the daily wounds of discrimination. And for white allies, they give a role to play, not as saviors, but as partners in building a society rooted in respect. This is why his voice spreads like wildfire. Not because it flatters one side or shames another, but because it offers something bigger: a future where every child, whether born in Harlem or Ouagadougou, knows they are worthy, knows they belong, and knows they are equal. The truth is, racists fear this vision not because it is violent, but because it is unstoppable. You can silence one protest. You can block one march. But you cannot stop an idea whose time has come: the idea that black pride and universal love will shape the next chapter of humanity. Ibrahim Traoré's message doesn't roar like anger. It strikes like truth, calm, sharp, and undeniable. That's what makes it dangerous to racism. Because hate thrives on lies. The lie that black is lesser, the lie that history began with slavery, the lie that equality is a threat. But when truth enters the room, lies crumble. And Traore is that truth. He looks at black people in America, often taught to see themselves only through the lens of oppression, and he says, stand tall. You are not the problem. Racism is. These words hit harder than any weapon, because they heal the wound while exposing the poison. For centuries, systems of power told black men and women to doubt themselves, to fight just to exist. But when a leader reminds them that their very existence is proof of strength, something shifts. Confidence replaces shame. Power replaces fear. And then comes the part racists truly fear. Traore doesn't tell black communities to hate back. He tells them to love deeper. Not a weak love that accepts abuse, but a bold love that refuses to see anyone as less, not even the racist. Because when you refuse to mirror hate, you take away its fuel. Imagine an America where black pride is unshakable, where black children grow up knowing their skin is not a burden but a crown, where white children are taught that equality is not loss but gain. Racists panic at this vision because it means their world of hierarchy and division dissolves. Traore insists that peace is possible, but only if truth and justice walk hand in hand. Equality without dignity is empty. Love without respect is fake. And so he calls on both black and white communities, not to ignore the past, but to rise above it, to build something new, a society where every hand is valuable, every culture celebrated, every person honored. This is why his words spread far beyond Burkina Faso. They ripple through Harlem, through Chicago, through every city where racism still tries to whisper its lies. Because his voice says what racists can't allow, that black people are already free, already powerful, already equal. And once enough people believe that, racism has nowhere left to hide. Every generation gets one truth teller so dangerous that powerful men tremble when he speaks. For America's racists, that man is Ibrahim Traoré. Because he doesn't beg for equality, he demands it by reminding the world that it already belongs to every human being. He doesn't fight to be included in the system, he exposes the system as broken and dares to imagine something better. And here's the truth. Bullets can silence a body, but they cannot kill an idea. That's why Traoré terrifies the West, and why racists across America choke on his words. Because no matter how many times they try to assassinate him, his vision survives. His courage is contagious. His pride is infectious. His love is unstoppable. In Africa, he's building alliances that weaken centuries of colonial dominance. But in America, his voice carries a different kind of revolution, one that doesn't need soldiers, only believers. A revolution where black children look in the mirror and see royalty, where white children are taught that true strength is not domination, but partnership, where the chains of hate finally break, not by force, but by truth. This is the nightmare of the racist, that one day, their lies will no longer work, that one day, black pride will be too strong to crush, and white guilt too useless to manipulate. That one day, humanity will wake up and say together, we are free and we are equal. And when that day comes, when the thunder of Traore's words echoes in every street of Harlem, every classroom in Atlanta, every church in Mississippi, racism will have no hiding place left. Because thunder does not ask for permission. It does not whisper. It shakes the sky. So the question is no longer whether Ibrahim Traoré can survive the attacks against him. The question is whether America is ready to listen. Because his voice isn't just Africa's. His voice belongs to everyone who refuses to bow to hate. And the truth is simple. The more they fear him, the louder his words will grow.